What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we've had some requests for a deck profile that I've had brewing for a while now. So let's go join the circus and check out what the Silverthorns have been up to. Let's get started. Alright, so starting off, as we all do with every deck we play, we have the starter. Nothing really much to say about it. It's ride, draw, stays in soul, and helps meet the criteria for X number or more Silverthorn card names in the soul. It's a good card. So, on to the grade 3s. So, to start off with, we have the boss monster here, the ringleader herself, Silverthorn Dragon Tamer Lukier. Her first ability is one that you may or may not really pay much attention to until you notice that it is a Vanguard Rearguard effect. Of her, whenever 2 or more cards were called, she actually gets a plus 10,000 boost, turning her into a 22, if not more, depending on Excel circles, triggers, and all that stuff. Second ability is Vanguard only for a good reason. Once per turn, you can counterblast 2, and then you can discard a card in order to call as many Silverthorn cards from your soul to rear guards, and they all gain plus 3 in the front row. Back here you have the supporting unit, and honestly she is rather broken for what she does. For being a rare? Common? Rare. And being able to do this on Vanguard or rear guard, at the end of the turn you put all your other rear guards into the soul to specify that she does not go because of the last ability. And then for every 2 cards that you put into your soul, you can draw a card. So that helps you keep the sort of engine going and keep you from just completely running out of resources, because granted, soul's important, so is hand. However, the last ability pairs really well with all of the rapid soul charge, whereas if you put if you have 4 or more cards returned this way, you can add a grade 3 Silverthorn card from your soul to your hand. You do not have to retire this unit in order to do the ability. That is the broken part about this. The retiring from the rear guard, if she's on rear guard, is mandatory, but if she's on Vanguard and you want to get this one that was soul charged, you can. It's just great. It's a great card. On to the grade 2s. We have the full lineup of Silverthorns, except we have the inclusion of this one right over here. So, Dancing Knife Dancer, creative name, is the only form of countercharge in the entire deck. I know some people have mentioned the grade 3 Chimera that allows you to tuck a unit, gains power, and countercharge if you haven't countercharged that turn yet. But you want as many grade 3 Silverthorn cards as possible because of the backup grade 3 that Silverthorn has. It plays too well in order to do that. So a lot of people run between 2 and 3 copies of this for the counter charge that it offers. Onto this one, the Shada, I believe is her name. This ability is really interesting because it is on a Guardian Circle. So you guard with it, put it into the soul, and then it gives trigger value. It specifically gives a crit trigger value worth of guard potential to your unit that you're guarding. And it bumps up the soul count for the Silverthorn units. So it's a great card. I wouldn't run more than 3 in all honesty, but you can make space for 3, minimum 2. Over here we got the Rising Dragon. Rising Dragon is a beat stick and a half. It has the same effect as the Lukier card as far as the Rearguard Vanguard of her ability. The Rearguard ability obviously only, but for every card that gets, whenever 2 or more cards get called out, you get a plus 1,000 boost to this. Static ability, it's a great card. Doesn't really get much higher than that without some support. That's why you have Lukier's plus 3 to the front row, because this is going to be on an Excel circle 90% of the time. Same thing with this one back here. Yes, we have an SP. She is beautiful, and that stained glass sword is something to pine over. But this one has that selective soul charging that every deck for Pale Moon needs. That selective soul charging of being able to go, I have the common grade, or the, rare, it's just good card. Backup grade 3. Now I need to get the Lukier card. Well, this is a Vanguard Rearguard ability. I know it's in my hand. I'm going to ride her, pay the cost of Counterblast. Then I'm going to get the Lukier, put it into Soul, ride the other grade 3 next turn. I'm going to get the Lukier to hand to fix the problem. She also gains the ability of Power if you have 4 or more Silverthorns with different cards with Silverthorn in their name. She gains plus 10. So beat stick, good guard, engine card. That's all you really need to know about this. It's just a good lineup. Alright, so grade 1s. Grade 1s are interesting because this is the only card in the deck that allows you to have multi-attack potential. I don't mind the effect. I like the effect. In all honesty though, I would have traded the Counterblast for Soul Blast 2. Soul Blast 2 grinds you. Big cost for a Pale Moon deck, but the Counterblast is so limited in this deck that it really restricts it. So changing up how this plays, you could possibly drop this and put in some other cards, maybe even some Purple Trapezist or something like that in order to really spice up the deck. Granted, it takes away from the Silverthorn count and it would be rather hard to soul charge them, but it's doable. But still, it's a good card, great multi-attack enabler. It's just the cost. You really have to be careful with this one. Then you have this wonderful engine piece right over here. Romy, I'm not sure, but she's great. So whenever she's on the rearguard circle act, you can rest it, put it to soul, and then you look at the top, I believe, let's see, 3 cards? Yes, 3 cards, top 3 cards, so you're digging pretty deep, and you can put as many cards from there with Silverthorn or their card name to your soul, and then put the rest of them to the bottom of the deck in any order. So you can stack kind of, but what you do is this replaces the original starter for Silverthorns. So you tuck her to soul, pull her back out, tuck her to soul, put her back out, and you do all of this in order to set up your first Lukier turn. It's probably going to be mostly front row units because you're going to want to get a bunch of these back out in order to charge even more and get more selectiveness, so your triggers are the only thing left in the deck. Then you have Irina, that is the main ride target. This is just a great card. You have it on place, you can look at the top 2, add and put the other one to the bottom of the deck. Then the on ride, you look at the top 3, choose any number of Silverthorn cards, put them into the soul, and then you put the rest of the bottom of the deck. So there again, the stacking criteria. However, if you put 2 or more cards with Silverthorn or their card name in the soul this way, you get to draw a card. So you replace the card that you just rode, so it's free, and you soul charge, turning it into a plus. This card is just really good. That's why you want to run as many Silverthorn cards as possible. So the idea, like I said, of including other cards for multi-attack, you really just have to be careful. You have to pick and choose what you want to do with the deck. You could have the grade 2s being pure and taking the Sword Dancer out and messing with some other stuff. You could have the grade 1s being the area where you mess with it. The grade 3s are pretty much the only place that you do not want to touch. But that's sort of where we're at right now, as far as I'm concerned. Now on to the triggers. This is a very weird situation to find yourself in. The front triggers are great because fronts in this deck, because you don't focus on multi-attack, you can designate your Vanguard's attack first. If you rip some front triggers, everything on the board gets stupid. But at the same time, it's bigger numbers, so then you're prioritizing the stronger attacks over more lethal attacks, which the crit triggers, this is a rainbow build. It's just, there's not really a defined way of building it that I've found. I've seen people run rainbow, I've seen people run 3 of this and more crits, I've seen people run 3 of this and more draws. You know, the only consistent thing in the trigger lineup is 4 heals, and the draw PGs aren't even necessarily consistent. I've seen some people run 3, bump another trigger in a different lineup, and then run a regular PG, or just only run 3. It's a weird position to be in because you want, again, the Silverthorn namesake. Because if you ride on top of the Graydon 1 and then you pull the top 3 and it's a trigger with Silverthorn in its stain, another Silverthorn card, and either the Sword Dancer or the Knife Dancer or the Clown or even Hades, you're kind of stuck to taking those 2 and one of them will trigger, but you get to draw off of it. So the whole namesake thing really forces you into this awkward position. You only got 4 of these, you only got 4 of these. There's no other triggers that I know of, at least, that have Silverthorn in their card name in standard. So it's pretty much a set thing. You can work with the ratios. It just pulls away from the Silverthorn namesake engine. It's all in preference, I guess. Alright, so that was the deck. In all honesty, I was really surprised whenever the effects came out and how Pale Moon originally played, because anyone who was a fan of this deck specifically whenever it first came out knows that the multi-attack aspect of the deck was the biggest thing. Well, without mixing other cards from the previous sets in, you don't really get a ton of multi-attack. You do, but it burns through your resources. You don't have the extra. It's just this giant balancing game. And it's not a bad thing. It's really not, because the deck itself can close out very easily. Some of the things that people might wonder is which markers you want to use. It's a preference, because they do have the grade 3 that tucks everything in, and then you draw cards off of every 2 that you tuck, and there's a draw engine inside of itself, so Excel 2 can work. It's all about what your comfort level is and what you're going up against. If you think you're going to go into the long game, I definitely wouldn't. If you think you're going to end it pretty quickly and you just need the resources to throw on the table, by all means. Otherwise, Excel 1's probably what you're going to go for, because the extra numbers on top of the numbers this deck already gets, it's pretty freaking crazy. As far as the setup for the decks goes, a lot of the stuff is selective setup now, which is really nice, because the original stuff, the starter was really the only selective, like take cards and put cards and take cards and put cards, and you had to loop it in order to get the effect to go off. In a way, the grade 1 sort of facilitates that. The rest, top cards, choose, put, and then bottom. So, yeah, it sort of plays the same, but at the same time, you have to include other things. I might experiment with the build to see if you can get more multi-attack out of this instead of just, I have Excel markers, this is my form of multi-attack, and they're big. Which, it works. It really does. That's why this deck is so powerful, and that's why it's just doing a lot of stuff over in Japan and Singapore and all the other areas that it's been out for a while. They've sort of figured out how it plays. That was the Pale Moons, Silverthorn specifically. I'm Jeff. Make sure to, do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications whenever we post, because we are trying to keep up a regular post schedule. If you like the videos, leave the comments telling us what you liked. If you didn't like the videos, tell us what you didn't like. We'll look at everything. But, name's Jeff, and I'll see you next time. Me and you, that's normal.
Well, yeah, but that's genetic.
It's true.
It's bad. Anyways.
West Virginia!
I think you
The
killed
camera's recording, you fuckwad.